chapter 36. And Bezalel and Aholiab shall work, every wise-hearted man, in whom the Lord hath put wisdom and understanding to know how to work all the work for the service of the sanctuary, according to all that the Lord hath commanded. And Moses called Bezalel and Aholiab, and every wise-hearted man in whose heart the Lord had put wisdom, even every one whose heart stirred him up to come unto the work to do it. And they received of Moses all the offering which the children of Israel had brought for the work of the service for the sanctuary, wherewith to make it. And they brought yet unto him freewill offerings every morning. And all the wise men that wrought the work of the sanctuary came every man from his work which they wrought. And they spoke unto Moses, saying, The people bring much more than enough for the service of the work which the Lord hath commanded to make. And Moses gave commandment, and they caused it to be proclaimed throughout the camp, saying, Let neither man nor woman make any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing, for the stuff they had was sufficient for all the work to make it, and too much. And every wise-hearted man among them that wrought the work made the tabernacle with 10 curtains, of fine twined linen, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, with cheddar beam, the work of skillful workmen, made he them. The length of each curtain was 28 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains had one measure. And he coupled 5 curtains one to another, and the other 5 curtains he coupled one to another. And he made loops of blue upon the edge of one curtain that was outmost in the first set. Likewise he made in the edge of the curtain that was outmost in the second set. 50 loops made he in the one curtain, and 50 loops made he in the edge of the curtain that was in the second set. The loops were opposite one to another. And he made 50 clasps of gold, and coupled the curtains one to another with the clasps, so the tabernacle was one. And he made curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains he made them. The length of each curtain was 30 cubits, and 4 cubits the breadth of each curtain. The 11 curtains had one measure. And he coupled 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves. And he made 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that was outmost in the first set, and 50 loops made he in the edge of the curtain which was outmost in the second set. And he made 50 clasps of brass to couple the tent together, that it might be one. And he made a covering for the tent of ram's skin dyed red, and a covering of seal's skin above. And he made the boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood, standing up. 10 cubits was the length of a board, and 1.5 cubits the breadth of each board. Each board had 2 tenons, joined one to another. Thus did he make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And he made the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the south side southward. And he made 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under the one board for its tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for its tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle, on the north side, he made 20 boards, and there 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And for the hinder part of the tabernacle westward he made 6 boards, and 2 boards made he for the corners of the tabernacle in the hinder part, that they might be doubled beneath, and in like manner they should be complete unto the top thereof, unto the first ring. Thus he did to both of them in the 2 corners. And there were 8 boards, and their sockets of silver, 16 sockets under every board, 2 sockets. And he made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards of the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the tabernacle for the hinder part westward. And he made the middle bar to pass through in the midst of the boards from the one end to the other. And he overlaid the boards with gold, and he made their rings of gold for holders for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. And he made the veil of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. With the cheddar beam, the work of skillful workmen, made he it. And he made thereunto 4 pillars of acacia, and overlaid them with gold, their hooks being of gold, And he cast for them 4 sockets of silver. And he made a screen for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, the work of the weaver in colors, and the 5 pillars of it with their hooks, and he overlaid their capitals and their fillets with gold, and their 5 sockets were of brass. All right, let's go back up to verse 1 as we continue from the last chapter. At the Moses has went over some of the points of the law, not all the points of the law, but we see Moses had went back up to the mountain and reacquired the law, and he had came back down, and once again he had the tablets in his hand, and the people had saw Moses' face, and Moses' face was sending out these beams of light as this is where we would leave off. Moses was getting ready to call Bezalel and Oholiab to start to build the sanctuary, or the tent of meeting, you might say. And that's where we're going to be as we pick it up in verse 1. And Bezalel and Oholiab shall work, and every wise-hearted man in whom the Lord hath put wisdom and understanding to know how to work all the work for the service of the sanctuary, according to all the Lord had commanded. Bezalel and Oholiab are the 2 that we remember. The Lord has already commanded they shall make it. We're going to witness these 2. Bezalel is the defense of the mighty one. Oholiab is the father of the tent, or the tent of father, we should say. And that's what we're going to find out. The defense of the mighty one, or his defense, is going to be this tent of the Father. And this is the work. This is what they're going to do. And every wise-hearted man will find out. These wise-hearted are the ones whom the Lord hath put wisdom and understanding to know how to work all the work for the service of the sanctuary. As we see, they are going to fabricate the sanctuary. The sanctuary is someplace that's set aside. We'll find out it was separated. It was purified. It was cleansed according to the law, according to what we have already received. And it's separated for the Lord. It belongs to Him. And it's according to all that the Lord hath commanded, as we find out these things that was commanded already. 2. Moses called Bezalel and Oholiab, and every wise-hearted man in whose heart the Lord had put wisdom, even every one whose heart stirred him up to come unto the work to do it. So Moses calls Bezalel to the defense of the mighty one, and Oholiab, the tent of the Father. Every wise-hearted man, all these that had any understanding at all, and whose heart the Lord had put that wisdom. We'll find out. God gives you all your knowledge and understanding from the beginning. Even everyone whose heart stirred him up. That was those that made themselves willing. There was plenty of work to be done. There's always more to be done than a fine craftsman. There's a lot that goes on just to make anything happen. 3. And they received of Moses all the offering which the children of Israel had brought for the work of the service of the sanctuary, wherewith to make it, and they brought yet unto him freewill offerings every morning. And they received of Moses. So Moses gives them all these offerings the people had been bringing in, these free will offerings that we'll find out is all that was being accepted. You had to be willing to give these offerings. There was no commandment in a sense other than the Lord said, let them bring it, all that will, free willingly. And that's because you wanted to, because you felt it was the right thing to do. So they brought for the work and for the services of the sanctuary. So they brought all these things together. As we'll see, Moses has already been given specific instructions of how it should be built. Moses received more than just the written instructions we get. Moses got the instructions that everything has a meaning. We'll find out in the sanctuary. And just like in today, if we can't give everything in the temple, or which we don't have yet, then it really, it doesn't have any meaning. I mean, it don't mean nothing. You can really just throw it over there with everything else that don't mean nothing in this world. So there's has to be, everything has to have a purpose. It has to mean something, and that's what gives it all its presence, you might say. For and all the wise men that wrought the work of the sanctuary came every man from his work which they wrought. So all these wise men, all these ones that had understanding, knowledge, and wisdom, find out the Lord gave it to you in the beginning. You know what the law is, and you know what it all means. They worked all the work. They done it. Even that work of the sanctuary, that which was separated, it belonged to God, and to every man from his work which they worked. So every man, even according to their own trades, which they already done, these ones that did this kind of work even came and done this work. 5. They spoke unto Moses, saying, the people bring much more than enough for the service of the work which the Lord commanded to make. So they told Moses, and we'll see these weren't greedy men, the people were bringing more than enough for the service or to do what's going to be necessary to be done to perform these tasks as the Lord had commanded to be made. They had all they needed. 6. And Moses gave commandment, and they caused it to be proclaimed throughout the camp, saying, let neither man nor woman make any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing. So Moses tells everybody. He sends a commandment. We'll find out this was used. We didn't have the mail. We didn't have email. We didn't have telephones. There wasn't nothing like that back then. So we had runners, and this message would go forth by proclamation throughout the whole camp, generally to the elders, which would pass down through a chain of command which they had established. But the word went forth nonetheless. Every man or woman shouldn't bring any more offerings unto the Lord, because they had more than enough. They already had enough to do the work of the Lord. So the people restrained from bringing. 7. For the stuff they had was sufficient for all the work to make it. And too much. They had more than enough. They had too much already to do it. 8. And every wise-hearted man among them that wrought the work made the tabernacle with 10 curtains, of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet, with cherubim, the work of skillful workmen made he them. And every wise-hearted man, every one that had some understanding and knowledge, wisdom the Lord give you from the beginning, every one among them that worked the work made the tabernacle with the 10 curtains. And that's what they did. They made the tabernacle with these 10 curtains. These curtains are something that separates, something that divides. We'll find out the outside from the inside even. These 10 are going to be the law of God, and everybody that does the law does this work. They separate. It's of a fine twined linen, blue and purple and scarlet. We'll find out that blue, that's the little bit of understanding we get, the good understanding, you might say. And the scarlet, maybe not so good. The purple is when we blend the two together. We get that royal understanding, even that knowledge, these fine twined linens. It's all woven, you might say, together. It's with the cherubim. It's the work of these skillful workmen made he them. These cherubims are these angels, just like these deputies that come from the Lord. 9. The length of each curtain was 8 and 20 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains had one measure. And the length, of course, when we measure something out, we figure out, first of all, what it's determined to do. And these curtains was 8, 20 cubits. 8's new beginning. 20's redemption. Cubit is a measure. It really isn't. We're going to get into the specifics of the measure because that's not as important at the moment. But the 20 is just as well to use it. To witness the law is redemption being measured out. The breadth is what we're going to use it for. Different purposes. And the breadth of each curtain, that's the which divides, we find out there was 10 in all, was going to be 4 cubits because it's the work of God. 4 is always the work of God, even in the fourth day, as he showed us how to separate with these measurements. And all the curtains had one measure, and they was all equal in their proportions. There wasn't one greater than the other. 10. And he coupled 5 curtains, one to another, and the other 5 curtains he coupled one to another. As we'll find out, there'll be 2 sets. 5 curtains were coupled one to another. They're joined together on the one side, and the 5 curtains he coupled one to another. They are joined the other side. And this is how. 11. He made loops of blue upon the edge of the one curtain that was outmost in the first set. Likewise, he made in the edge of the curtain that was outmost in the second set. He made these loops of blue. These things that go around. That's what a loop does. It just goes around. As we'll find out, it's like a buttonhole. But these loops go around, they're blue. They're for understanding upon the edge of the one curtain. In the beginning, that's what was dividing. That's what it was for. That was the outmost in the first set. Or on one side, you might say, of the first set of these 10 curtains. Likewise, he made in the edge of the curtain that was outmost in the second set. And likewise, again, now witness that. It's the second set. It means to witness that which the Lord has done. He did it twice. It was in the second set, 12. 50 loops made he in the one curtain, and 50 loops made he in the edge of the curtain that was on the second set. The loops were opposite one to another. 50 loops. In total, these 5 loops. The 50 is grace in the law. 50 is divine knowledge, because when we understand that there's always grace, mercy through the law, that's what it was designed for from the beginning. That's what it was for. In order to separate, there's mercy. This is the defense of the mighty one, this great tent of mercy. And these 50 loops, because there's grace in the law, and it's continually, my friend. That was on the edge of the second set. We get to witness it twice, because God always grace in the law. That's what's going around. And these loops are opposite one another. 13. He made 50 clasps of gold and coupled the curtains one to another with the clasps, so that the tabernacle was one. And he made these 50 clasps. A clasp is something, a tack, or the King James, I believe, says attack. The word is keres. It's like a knob or a pin. Something sticks out. It's a button. Would couple or join together the curtains one to another with these buttons and the loops. So then the tabernacle would be one. So it would be one piece, or be joined together. And we'll find out that's exactly what it's for. As a sanctuary, a place for protection. 14. He made curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains he made them. And he made these curtains of this goat's hair. The goat is the substitute, I always say. The hair is the glory of it. And it's for a tent, a covering over the tabernacle. We'll find out. These 11 curtains, he made them. 11, in the beginning of the law, there was a little bit of confusion, you might say. And that's what we get before we get understanding. It's just that there's a little bit of confusion in things. But we had the law in the beginning. 15. The length of each curtain was 30 cubits, and 4 cubits. The breadth of each curtain, the 11 curtains, had one measure. And the length of each curtain was 30 cubits, because that's what it was determined for from the beginning, my friend. 30 is dedication. It's going to complete the witness of the law being measured out. These 4 cubits, because it was the work of God when he divided into measures in the beginning. Even the breadth, that's what it was determined for. It was what it was made for. of each curtain. Of these that separate, we'll find out. The 11 curtains had one measure. There may have been a little bit of confusion, but we'll find out in the beginning the law had one measure. It was equal to everybody. 16. And he coupled 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves. So he coupled 5 curtains. 5's always grace. That separates to themselves, and these 6 curtains by themselves. And 6, we'll find out one more. It would add to these would be the 6. That's the work of man, and what the curtains by themselves. So God separates. We'll find out by 1. 17, and he made 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that was outmost in the first set, and 50 loops made he upon the edge of the curtain, which was outmost in the second set. 50 loops, though, because grace and the law, that's the divine knowledge going around, is equal in both sets, we'll find here. On one side, both sets, and we get to witness that. There's grace in the law. There's always grace, God says. 18, and he made 50 clasps of brass to couple the tent together that it might be one. And he made these 50 clasps. Once again, these buttons, these things that you use to join, they stick out. We'll find out. Grace and the law, these are of brass. Brass here should be copper. Not the most desired metal, not the most desired workable substance, but we can work with it. It's to couple the tent together, or to join it together, then it might be one. Complete. 19. He made a covering for the tent of ram skin, dyed red, and a covering of sealskin above. So he makes for a covering of the tent. That's what we're making. This sanctuary, this defense of God himself, the tent of our Father. With this ram skin, we'll find out a ram is always the one who exalts himself over the herd. Can't have just many rams running around. So the excess of them, we might say, we have to have something to do with them. And it was dedicated for a purpose from the beginning, even. So their skins are dyed red. That's because that's what happens is to them. They end up showing the blood in the flesh. And a covering of sealskin was above. But because this covering of sealskin, the sealskin here is and the insinuation it was of a seal. I believe the King James Version might say badger. And we go back, it may mean, and I believe the insinuation here that it was waterproofed in a sense to understanding couldn't get through to those rams. 20, and he made the boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood standing up. Now we're going to make these, and we're going to change subjects. That's everything that kind of separates. Now we're going to get into what supports all of it. 20, he made the boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood standing up. And we're going to make these boards. Boards something where we take a tree. Something exalts itself in the forest, and we hew it down. And we split it out. We make us a plank. A plank is a board. And these are going to be for the tabernacle, or the framework even of that. And they're going to be of acacia wood. Acacia was, I believe the King James Version may say shittim tree, but it's going to be a tree that used to have thorns, known for its long-lasting properties. I've made a similar wood you might think of would be a black locust tree. But they're for standing up. These boards are going to be that which stands up. Upright. They're upright. These that have been hewn out. 21. 10 cubits was the length of a board, and a cubit and a half was the breadth of each board. 10 cubits. No coincidence in that. That's the law being measured out here. It's the length of a board, or that's it's determined for that a cubit and a half was the breadth of each board. And a cubit and a half, that's a measure to divide, and divided. Half a cubit is a measurement that's divided in half, so it's a measure divided. Would be what it's used for. It's on each board. Board is just simply those planks that was split out 22. Each board had 2 tenons, joined one to another. Thus did he make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And each board had 2 tenons. These 2 tenons are to give power, in a sense, to direct the force, you might say. Thus did he make for all the boards of the tabernacles, and they were for joining one to another. We get to witness these things that give the power. We'll find out. They're on each one. Thus did he make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And this is how it was done. 23. And he made the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the south side southward. And he made the boards, those things that were split out for the tabernacle or the framework of it. These 20 boards. 20's redemption. That was split out from the beginning. It witnessed the law. It's on the south side southward. Now, that's what I always say. That's what it's for. That's towards the south, that dry, arid place. It was for a witness from the beginning. You might say it's on the right-hand side. That's the great strength. 24. And he made 40 sockets of silver under 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for its 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for its 2 tenons. He made 40 sockets. These sockets are, again, that's what strength, and it's used as a foundation in a sense to set these boards in, or these posts, you might say. They're made of silver under the 20 boards. And under when we went these 40 sockets, because it's the work of God in law, we might say there's going to be this probation, these sockets of silver. As we learn from others, even, or their mistakes, you might say, because that's what keeps passing through the fire there. That's the second time through, under the 20 boards. 20, witness the law. That's twice. It's been hewed out. And twice, Moses hewed those tablets. 2 sockets under one board for its 2 tenons. 2 sockets. Once again, those things that strengthen. Witness those things that strengthen. The 2 tablets under the one board. It was made from one. It's 2 tenons. The tenons were that which gave power, and we can witness those 2 things that give the power. And the 2 sockets are, once again, the strength under another board for its 2 tenons. And that's what it was for. These sockets were used as the foundation to strengthen the tenons as they slid down inside of them, you might say. 25, and the second side of the tabernacle, on the north side, he made 20 boards. And on the second side, and we get to witness that side, it's always made plain. It's of the tabernacle as well. It's the north side. That's the side of judgment. We say it's the left side. We get to witness that side. He made 20 boards and witnessed the law being hewed out. It's 20. That's twice the law. Now it's redemption being hewed out. 26. There are 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board and 2 sockets under another board, with their 40 sockets, just like the other side. There's no difference. We got one on the left, we got one on the right. They're equal in their proportions. It's the work of God in the law. It's probation. And these sockets are just something to strengthen it, to give it a little something of silver. That's a little measured out, you might say, in its proportions. These 2 sockets, we get to witness those strengths under one board, and that's because it's to support the one, each plank, and that's going to be the law. 2 was measured out. The 2 sockets, we witness the strengths under another board. So each one has 2 sockets. They're equal. We get to witness the foundation and support of each law. 27, for the hinder part of the tabernacle westward, he made 6 boards. Now for the backside, you might say that we can It's westward. That's where the sun's going down. He made 6 boards. That's the work of man, you might say, the final lesson of the day. These boards are going to be, that's what was hewed out. 28, 2 boards made he for the corners of the tabernacle and the hinder part. And we're going to witness these 2 boards, these 2 uprights that were made for the corners, because that's where they turned, even in the beginning. It was for the tabernacle and the hinder part, you might say. We can witness those. We'll give them a little meaning. They're a little bit different than any other portion, because they're like a half column that reaches up to what we'll find out, the first ring here in a minute, 29. They might be double beneath, and in like manner they should be complete unto the top thereof, unto the first ring. Thus he did to both of them in the 2 corners. So they're a little bit different. They're like a little half column. They're doubled beneath, twice each one. We'll find out. They got to witness the law before we all witness the law by them, these 2. I like to give one to the priest and one to the king. In like manner, they would be complete into the first ring. That first ring, or maybe that portion, we're going to find out. These rings are used for supports. They go around. And thus he did to both of them in the 2 corners. And that's what he did to both of them. We get to witness those 2 corners. That's where they turned. 30. And there were 8 boards, and their sockets of silver, 16 sockets. Under every board, 2 sockets. And there were 8 boards, and 8's always a beginning, a new beginning even, split out, each one. Their sockets of silver, their supports were of silver. You might say they got to learn from lessons. Each had a prior lesson. 16 sockets. 16, that's 10 and 6, because the law is man's work. You might say men work in the law. They're trying to practice it for strength. And they're under every board, 2 sockets. Each board, that which one was hewed out, had 2 sockets. Witness the sockets, because they were for strength. Each one got 2 lessons. 31. He made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards of the one side of the tabernacle. So you make these bars of acacia. A bar is a bolt. A bolt, 5 of them. Grace, you might say. But, the bolt, now we get it's like a lock. But no. This bolt is more like a fugitive. One that runs off. Goes the wrong way, you might say. These bars of acacia. 5. Grace was split out on one side of the tabernacle. That's what was its measurement, we find out, for those that bolted, you might say, or ran off, or were fugitives. 32. And 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle. We'll find grace measured out over there as well, and it was hewed out on that beam. These things were made plain by the tabernacle, even its structure and its measurements and everything in it. 5 bars for the boards of the tabernacle for the hinder part westward. So there were 5 bars all the way around, grace, and we'll find there's 5 pillars in the front. Grace, all the way around was what this place was measured out for. Mercy. It's the defense of God himself. It's his tabernacle. And it's in the hinder part. Remember, there's where we found these measures of men, or even the final lessons, we can say, westward, where the sun's going down. 33, and he made the middle bar to pass through in the midst of the boards from the one end to the other. So he makes the middle bar. That's the one that's in between. There's 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, 1 in the middle. Goes through the midst of the boards. We'll find these boards had a whole board through them. And this bar here, instead of being in the rings, would go through the center. And it goes from one end to the other. It's single. And it's that which is the main support of all of it. 34. And he overlaid the boards with gold, and he made the rings of gold for holders for the bars, and he overlaid the bars with gold. and he overlaid the boards with gold. He covers everything with gold. Well, that's everything that belongs to God. And he made these rings of gold. All these things that go around there, it's all of God. He makes everything go around anyway. Holders for the bars, these things that hold back the fugitives, you might say, that overlaid the bars with gold. And he shows that God made everything. God made even the bars. 35, and he made the veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen and the cheddar beam, the work of the skillful workman made he it. And he made the veil of blue. That's that covering. A little bit of obscurity, but we can see through it's the blue. That's that true understanding God gave in the beginning. And the purple, that was the mingling in that gives it that royal effect. And the scarlet, because it comes with the law. You might say we've figured out for ourselves there's a law of the flesh, there's a law that's higher God gives in everything from the beginning. This fine twined linens, they're both wove together, you might say, finely, with this cheddar beam, these angels, these deputies it's a work, it's a skillful, but these workmen, these ones that made it, and we'll find out we're making it every day, my friends. When we keep the law, when we do these things that God asks us to do. 36, and he made thereunto 4 pillars of acacia, and overlaid them with gold, their hooks being of gold, and he cast them for 4 sockets of silver. He made thereunto these 4 pillars. That was the work of God even in the beginning that stood up. They're of acacia, of that would shoot down, that tree. The acacia tree, or that thorny one that exalted himself over in the beginning, had to be hewed down. We got a little example being made, split out. It's overlaid with gold. These things was of God. God, give the lessons. He tries to teach the student. The student needs to understand. Their hooks being of gold. Their hooks. Hook, is a Vav. Vav's the 6th letter of the alphabet, and I will make that reference back that these works of men are of gold. These the ones we're talking about. Of course, it's all God's work. It all belongs to God. God did everything. He makes examples out of people, and they have to do it just right. Sometimes it's not good. Sometimes it's bad. But either way, we get the example God makes. And he cast for them these 4 sockets of silver. And these sockets give the strength. It's a foundation made of silver. We get to learn from others' mistakes. That's the work of God, too. 37, he made a screen for the door of the tent. Of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, the work of the weaver in colors. He made a screen for the door. That's where they went in and out of the tent. That was the place of meeting. We can all make an agreement there. It's a screen, though, that covers it. It's not too so much to keep out, but offer a obscurity as well as defense, as a show of defense. It's of blue, purple, and scarlet. Once again, we get some understanding about that royalty and scarlet. Why what the purpose of everything was in the beginning. Even this fine twined linen, these things that are woven together. It's the work of the weaver in colors. And that's how it appears as the work of a weaver in these appearances. 38, the 5 pillars of it with their hooks, and he overlaid the capitals, their fillets with gold, and their 5 sockets of brass. These 5 pillars, that's where you went in the tent. That's grace, my friend. That's what it was all about in the beginning. These 5 pillars was about grace. Mercy was what this place was for. It was, and that was the work of man. And they created it. It was even the purpose for it. He overlaid their capitals and their fillets with gold. The capital is, is the top. That's the top of it. That's, was overlaid with this of gold. Their fillets, their designs, it's the head of the top, we might say, the principal part of it, along with its capital. That's the top of it. These designs there at the top. It's like a crown that goes around it. Were of gold. These things that belong to God, just like the crown that went around Aaron's head. And their 5 sockets were of brass. I mean, there was grace and these strengths. That's what a socket is, it then. It's like a foundation. This was a brass. Copper. To show, there's grace even for our own mistakes, my friend. Even these things we can still work with. God measures grace out all the way around. Let us move forward to Exodus chapter 37. Turn and return.